وصل صوتك.
C'est un grand plaisir d'être de retour à Tunis. Je remercie le gouvernement et le peuple tunisien de leur hospitalité et de la chaleur de l'accueil qu'ils m'ont réservé, ainsi qu'à ma délégation. Le président de la Banque mondiale, Jin-Yong Kim, et moi-même sommes à Tunis pour manifester notre soutien et solidarité au gouvernement et au peuple tunisien, tandis qu'il continue de progresser en vue d'une plus grande stabilité et d'une plus grande prospérité, malgré les difficultés auxquelles ils font face. Au cours de notre visite, le président Kim et moi-même avons eu des entretiens fructueux avec son Excellence Monsieur le Président Bézi Caïd Essebsi, son Excellence Monsieur le Premier ministre Habib Essid et le Président de l'Assemblée des représentants du peuple, son Excellence Monsieur Mohamed Ennasser. Je tiens à remercier le gouvernement tunisien d'avoir fermement soutenu et accueilli la mission d'appui des Nations Unies en Libye, MANUL ou UNSMIL en anglais. J'ai assisté aujourd'hui à une conférence très intéressante sur l'emploi organisée par le Premier ministre et j'ai eu le grand honneur de m'entretenir avec des membres du quatuor ou quartet du dialogue national. Pendant tous ces entretiens, j'ai été impressionné par l'attachement que j'ai constaté aujourd'hui en Tunisie aux valeurs démocratiques, aux droits de l'homme et au développement durable. La Tunisie est un partenaire très précieux de l'ONU et un modèle pour d'autres pays de la région. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, I'd like to stress 3 points as I prepare to leave this great country. First, the United Nations is Tunisia's steadfast partner as it continues its democratic revolution. Tunisia's values are the values of international community and the 2030 development agenda. The United Nations country team will continue to work hand in hand with the government on development, economic support, and many other areas. Second, we have concrete proposals to support the government's efforts to tackle youth unemployment. This is a priority not only for Tunisia, but for the whole region. Indeed, it is a global problem. 2 out of every 5 young people of working age around the world are either unemployed or earning too little to escape poverty. Last month, the United Nations launched a global initiative on decent jobs for youth. And this is a partnership between governments, the United Nations, businesses, academic institutions, and youth organizations to create new opportunities for young people and to help young men and women develop the skills they need. My third point is that we understand the impact of the crisis in Libya on Tunisia's economic and social development. I was very much moved by my visit to the Bardo Museum yesterday, where President Kim and I commemorated those killed in the horrific attack last year. Yesterday evening, I held talks with the Deputy Prime Minister of the Libyan Government of National Accord, Mr. Musa al-Khoni. I commended the efforts of the Presidency Council in leading Libya's democratic transition and expressed a deep concern of the international community over the worsening humanitarian situation and the expansion of Daesh. I expressed a full support for the Presidency Council and encouraged them to exercise a strong leadership. I joined the calls from across Libya and the region for the Presidency Council to move to Tripoli if the security situation allows, and take all necessary measures to ensure the immediate peaceful and orderly handover of power to the government of national accord. I urge all actors on the ground to cooperate and work with the Presidency Council to this end. I will be following this matter and will keep the Security Council informed of the situation. Those obstructing the political process should be held accountable. I call on the House of Representatives to uphold its responsibilities in implementing all relevant provisions of the Libyan political agreement. The Libyan people deserves peace, security, and prosperity under a strong, united government. Tunisia's continued support will be critical when the government of national accord is in place. But terrorism poses a grave threat, not only in Libya and Tunisia, but all from around the world. As we have seen in the past days in Belgium, Iraq, and Pakistan, we need a united global approach if we are to combat it effectively. The plan of action to prevent the violent extremism that I presented to the United Nations General Assembly in January stresses the importance of addressing root causes. We need action at the grassroots level to create trust between communities, to build accountable and inclusive institutions, to provide opportunities for young people, and to promote human rights and the rule of law. We need a new global partnership against violent extremism, and I hope Tunisia will play a leading role. Thank you. Merci beaucoup. Shukran jazilan.
Merci, secrétaire général. On va prendre quelques questions. On va commencer avec mademoiselle. Est-ce que le micro est là? Oui.
Hudez Ardoudi, Tunisian Public Television الوطنية. Mr. Secretary, you're attending tomorrow in Geneva the high-level meeting concerning the global responsibility sharing in Syrian refugees. I think the meeting is a bit late, but after what is happening in Syria and all the horror happening in Syria and the refugees, do you think that as part of the global responsibility, don't you think of some preventive measures for Tunisia and the likely to happen war in Libya and the refugees that are going to fled from Libya? So are you thinking of a high-level meeting as a preventive measures for the global responsibility for Tunisia and the region?
First of all, I'd like to thank Tunisian government and people for their generosity to accommodate more than 450,000 Libyan refugees. And I understand that even this moment, every day, 2,000 to 3,000 Libyans are crossing the border and settled in this country. It must have been a very serious, heavy impact on socio-economic plans, as well as it must have changed some fabrics of the community of this country that we deeply admire such generosity and tolerance. We are really having very serious difficulties and challenges caused by increasing number of refugees who are fleeing the conflict, particularly from Syria. There are more than 4 million people who have become refugees in mostly 4 countries around Syria, starting from Turkey, Lebanon, Jordan, and Iraq, and some in Egypt and North Africa. Then there are many more billions of refugees and migrants. All together around the world, 60 million people are refugees or migrants at this time. This is the largest number since the end of Second World War. It's simply untenable, uncontrollable, unbearable situation. And that is why we've been working very closely with particularly European leaders. And tomorrow in Geneva, I'm going to open an international high-level conference on these resettlement plus issues. And in May, in Istanbul, I'm going to convene first ever World Humanitarian Summit meeting. And in September, on September 19th, I am going to convene the summit meeting focusing only on this migrants, global movements of migrants and refugees. So it has become a global challenge now. It's not an issue of certain European countries, Libya or Tunisia, Jordan. So it has become a global issue. So United Nations is now going to handle and to have sort of a global compact how we can ask the world leaders and world governments to have to address this issue with shared responsibility. So this is what I can tell you at this time. We may not have any conference specifically focusing on Tunisian case. Mostly during the last 4 or 5 years, I have been convening the pledging conference to mobilize financial resources on Syrian refugees because we have more than 4 million people is huge burden. And I hope you will understand the United Nations, and I am very much committed to address this issue.
Yes, the lady here, first row.
عسلامة خولة بالقياس قناة نسمة. عندي 3 أسئلة. السؤال الأول تونسيا ثم ليبيا ثم مغاربيا.
Yes, can you just repeat from the beginning?
Okay. خولة بالقياس قناة نسمة. عندي 3 أسئلة. أول يتعلق بتونس ثم ليبيا ثم مغاربيا. تونس الدعم التونسي وصلها الديمقراطي والانتقال الديمقراطي والثورة التونسية ودعم الشباب، كل هذا كلام يقال من البنك العالمي من البنك الدولي طيلة هذه 5 سنوات، لكن زيارتكم اليوم في تونس ما هي الحلول العملية؟ هل سيتم تنفيذ الوعود التي لطالما وعد بها البنك الدولي لتونس، خاصة القروض التي سبق ووعد بها ولم ينفذها للآن؟ السؤال الثاني ليبيا، زيارتكم يعني لقائكم البارح يعني متأخر في الليل واليوم صباحا.
مهم.
One person, one question.
الأسئلة كلها لو سمحت. يعني هذا اللقاء الوحيد الذي كان لنا معك، ومهم جدا أن نأخذ آراءك بخصوص ما لدينا من أسئلة. سؤالي هو ليبيا، بمن التقيت بالطرف الليبي في تونس وكيف سيتم نقل الحكومة إلى طرابلس خاصة مع الرفض الموجود حاليا؟ السؤال الثالث مغاربيا، تصريحكم الأخير في الجزائر بخصوص الصحراء الغربية.
Madame, c'est très important, mais posez une question s'il vous plaît. Il y a d'autres journalistes, on n'a pas beaucoup de temps.
السؤال الأخير بخصوص الصحراء الغربية وتصريحكم الأخير، يعني هل كنتم تقصدون الكلمة التي ذكرتم بها الصحراء الغربية وكلمة احتلال أم لا؟ شكرا.
On the transition of Tunisia toward the democratic society, Tunisia is an exemplary country to move toward a democratic society. This is highly commendable. That is why I have been urging international community to help Tunisia. Now you have been again facing a lot of challenges. First of all, these terrorist attacks against the people of Tunisia. That has impacted very seriously. I know that tourism and foreign direct investment have been seriously affected, which will seriously affect the social and economic situation of this country. That we have to fight against terrorism and extremism. This is not an issue of only Tunisia. We have seen so many such brutalities taking place around the world. So we have to work together. That is why, as I mentioned in my earlier remarks, I have presented my plan of action to prevent the violent extremism. That was unanimously adopted by the General Assembly last month. It contains very valuable recommendations which I'm proposing to the member states. Whatever recommendations are applicable to their society, their situations and circumstances, I think those should be applied. And the United Nations will continue to work with the key donor countries to provide the capacity building efforts to many countries who really need resources and capacity building. There are many countries whose national capacity, security capacity, cannot cope with this. Therefore, there should be country level, regional level, international level, combined level should be applied. On Libya, I have already explained at length in my earlier remarks. I met Mr. Musa Kony, who is Deputy Prime Minister of this Presidency Council. As you know, I was supposed to meet all the members, and they were supposed to come here, but because of a shutdown of airspace, they were not able to come. So he came driving himself. Many hours, he told me that 4 hours. Then going back again 4 hours, it must have been a big effort. I said what I told him, representing this Presidency Council, that they should exert their best efforts. And I'm going to talk to the leaders in the region, whoever may have influence, to exert their influence, so that those people who are opposing to this Presidency Council's proposal to form Government of National Accord should be told to look for the future of Libya and Libyan people. And that was my message, and I will continue to do that. On your last question, my spokesperson yesterday explained at length and detailed way. That is what I wanted to say. That is what I want to say. I'm not going to repeat it because every single word is now being analyzed and watched by unnecessarily. So I hope you will read the statement which my spokesperson yesterday had said. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The gentleman and then the lady, and then we'll have to wrap up this press conference. I'm sorry. Monsieur.
Amara de l'agence Reuters. Ma question c'est, selon vous, quel sera le plan pour le retour ou pour mettre en place un gouvernement à Tripoli, sachant que gouvernement de Tripoli bloque le retour du conseil présidentiel.
You know that there was a Libyan political agreement signed by the parties December last year. That was quite encouraging development of the situation after violence in many years. The House of Representatives did not approve the proposal by Presidency Council with some reasons that there were too many post ministerial, too many waste or something, sources of waste. The second proposal, which was presented by Presidency Council, I believe that was reasonable. And Special Envoy Martin Kobler, he has been very closely coordinating between and among the parties, including the friendly countries who would really be interested in helping the Libyan people so that they could form this government of national accord. For me, as a Secretary General, I thought that was reasonable. There was no reason why this should not be approved by the House of Representatives. And I sincerely hope that they will take action and go beyond their narrow perspectives or narrow interest. They have to think about their own better future for their people and for the country. Completely, there has been vacancy in Libya. No functioning government, no functioning institutions, public institutions. Then what happened? During this vacuum, then ISIL, Daesh, took roots, significant area. We are very much alarmed by this phenomenon, by this situation. The longer people take to establish government of national accord, I'm afraid to tell the people that they will just allow this extremist and terrorist spread their area of control. This we have to prevent in the name of humanity and for the future of Libyan people. The situation and security situation in Libya has a greater regional implications here. I think Tunisia is the hardest hit country, unnecessary. More than 30 embassies are now temporarily working in Tunis, including United Nations Support Mission for Libya, UNSMIL or Manur. I had a good meeting with Special Representative Martin Kobler and his staff, and I also had a brief meeting with him here at the airport. So I am very much committed, and United Nations is committed. There are many countries who really wish that Libya now establishes the government of national accord so that we can help them, so that they can establish their country with peace and security. Thank you.
And la dernière question pour Madame est, s'il vous plaît. It's the last question. Merci.
Thank you, Secretary General, for this opportunity. Before coming to Tunis, you've been around in several Arab capitals from Iraq to Lebanon to, and the main thing is that we only see Arab flag everywhere, in Yemen, in Syria, in Iraq, in Libya, and even in Tunisia because of the terrorists. So don't you think that this chaotic situation, that this spread of ISIS and the terrorist group is just finding is that feeding because of the failure of the international community and the failure of the system, the failure of, and the injustice in the world to give this, the opportunity to these people to trade with religion and commit their suicide, their crimes?
This current situation where international community is suffering from this very brutalities by ISIL, or Daesh, and other extremist and terrorist groups. By all means, we have to defeat and fight back in the name of humanity. Whatever causes, whatever reasons that they may have, they cannot justify such brutal activities against humanity. In that regard, I really appreciate many countries who are participating in coalition. At the same time, I have been repeatedly saying that while military solution may be necessary and may be effective, but that cannot be an ultimate solution. Ultimate solution should be found in resolving all these issues by demonstrating good governance by the countries, by the leaders, and by the community leaders. We have to provide a society and community where nobody is feeling that somebody is left behind. There should be anti-corruption. All these corruptive practices must be addressed firmly. And there should be no impunity to any crimes perpetrated by those people. And there should be justice. When there's a prevalent feeling of injustice, inequality, and impunity, then people are frustrated. And people do not feel that this is a just world. That is what we have to guard against. That is why I am asking world leaders to listen attentively to the voices of the people on the ground, particularly those vulnerable group of people, young people who have a lot of energy and dynamism and visions, but do not have any place or any opportunity to use their energy. Then let us not drive them to the dead end. This is what I'm saying, that good governance. And whatever and wherever and whenever there are conflicts or differences of opinion, and these conflicts or differences of opinion should be addressed through peaceful and inclusive dialogue between and among the parties concerned. That is important one. That is one of the most important recommendations which I presented and adopted by the General Assembly on how to prevent violent extremism. It is important to counter terrorism. At the same time, it is more important to prevent the terrorism by looking at the, first of all, symptoms of terrorism or extremism and taking preventive action, preventive diplomacy. I thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup, merci, nous avons un avion à prendre, donc nous allons y aller. Merci.